In this video, we're going to look at the technical elements of what it took to put this page together. So this is a K2 Smart form. The form is consisting of a number of different views, including the header and a little info view, my apps, my tasks, and my processes that I've started. So let's go and have a look at what it's like to put one of these together. So K2 uses the concept of K2 Smart Objects, where we define our data. We then build views on top of these smart objects to display the certain functionality and capabilities, and then we can put our view onto a form. So in this particular example over here, I have a number of different views. For example, this is a view that shows me a list of the processes. If I go and run that independently, see that's a view on its own, just showing me a list of workflows. That is the same view that is on this form, showing me my list of processes over here. So once something is a view, it becomes reusable, and I can use it on multiple different forms. Here is another view. This is my header view. Let's go and make some changes to this particular one. As you can see, this is a little header view. What I've got is a main heading, a subheading, and the current user and details. What I could do on this particular one is maybe add a picture to that. Let's go to my source of pictures, and I've got a little K2 logo over here. So that's one little change I've made there to my my little view. What I've also got is some parameters that can be passed to this view, a main heading and a subheading. And I have a rule that when this view initializes, what it does is if it finds that the parameter has been specified, it goes and it transfers the parameter that has been passed in, the main heading, to the main heading data label, so that it'll appear. So that way you can use the same view on multiple different forms, and it's going to display a different heading and subheading of whatever you passed in. It's also got a section over here that goes and it finds out who the current user is, gets the display name and puts it into a little label for the display name. And then I've got a identity provisioning service that actually goes into the back end over there, passes in the user's identity, and from that I'm getting back their current role in the back end system, and I'm populating the role data label with that value. So what that is enabling to take place, if I go and run this, is that heading filling in those details. If we go back and run it with some parameters, so if I run this with a parameter and say main heading, and then over here subheading, and now we go and run this view, you'll see there it's got main heading and subheading details this time around. So that's an example of a little view that we've created that's using some parameters that we can then go and define. So let's go now and take advantage of these and put them on our form. So let's go and create a new form. Call this the K2 portal, and now we have our design canvas where we can start to go and add things into it. So first thing I'm going to do is just add the immersion heading that we just created a few minutes ago. Go and make it so once I add my view to my page, I can also go and specify properties for it. For example, I don't want it to be collapsible. So if I just simply finish that and run this view, you'll see that's what it looks like. So that's now a form with our little heading sitting on it. As we can see in this particular example, it's stretched over the entire screen. I don't really want it to do that. Maybe I want it a little bit narrower. So we can go in, we can edit our form, and we can start adding certain characteristics to our page. So for example, I'm going to give it a minimum width, and I'm going to give it a minimum width, and I'm going to give it a maximum width, just to start off with. So if I save that, and I give that a little refresh, you can see it's now fitting nicely in the center of the screen. So let's go and add some more capabilities to it. If you remember our little heading, we've got our main and subheading. So at the moment, our page doesn't have any headings on it. What we can do now is go and pass some parameters into it. So on my rules, when the form is initializing, if I edit that, what it's done is it's written the rule inside of this to show me the immersion heading is executing its initialize method. So that's a rule that's already been written for me just by simply dragging and dropping the form onto the screen. If I click on configure, what that does is it brings me those parameters that we had set. So for example, I'm going to put inside here immersion experience. Oop, thank goodness for spell checking. And inside here, the little subheading is try it yourself. As my little subheading sitting inside there. So if I save that again, let's have a look at the changes. Just refresh it to get the latest version. There we go. Immersion experience, try it yourself, and you can see how the heading is starting to do its job. So what we can do now is we can also go and start to add additional views onto this page. So in this example, I'm going to make it slightly different from the view that we're looking at here. This is all on one page. I'm going to show you I can reuse these views but build very different forms as well. So we're going to build a slightly different form this time around. We're going to have the front page over here, and on that front page what we're going to do is put the applications list. So that's a list of apps that a user has access to. So I'll call it your apps. We'll make it non-collapsible, and let's have a look at the change that we've made now. So if you refresh that again, we can see there it is, and now it's got the list of our apps. What we're going to do in this example, we're going to actually add some tabs. So we're going to call this our home. We're going to add another little tab here called my tasks. And we have another little tab here called my processes. So on the tab for my tasks, I'm going to add my task list view that I've already created, and under my processes I'm going to add my process status view that we've already got and make that non-collapsible. So if we go and have a look at that again and give that a refresh, there we go. There's my task list, my processes. So very similar to the first immersion experience that we're looking at here, except now we've enabled it with different tabs, and reusing those elements that we built once, and now we can use them in many times on many different forms. We can also change certain characteristics of these forms. So for example, the form that we're looking at, I'm going to go ahead and change its theme. So these themes are just CSS files. You can actually create your own. You can duplicate the ones that have already been created by K2. So for example, if I go and use this burgundy theme and save that, if we go and run that, you can see it's going to look quite different. If I go and use a nice little custom one that I've created here called Jove, let me save that one and refresh it over here. You can see we're getting quite a different experience and quite a different changing in styling based upon the different themes that we're applying to. So it's really quite customizable in the way that you can add your own style sheets and really go and customize these, the look and feel of your forms. We can even do further things. So for example, on my form, what I do have is an immersion header. Sorry, not the immersion header, but the actual information view. So for example, I can this time around put it at the top. It's going to show our video. I'm going to call this one info, and I'm going to have it collapsible. So when this form starts, we're going to have this little collapsible section at the top. Now what I might also decide to do is that if this is opened up maybe on a different device or a mobile device, I might want certain other things to change. So the theme itself is going to rearrange the layout, but maybe I want further rules to take place. If you're on a mobile device, perhaps I don't want the info section and the header to be shown, and just to show the apps. We want to save a little bit of real estate. So I can go into my form initialized. You'll see that it's added further events for all the views that we've added. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and add an advanced condition. In the advanced condition, I'm going to go and add a rule. I'm going to have a look at the client that's accessing the form, have a look at their screen width, and if their screen width is less than, and what I could do here is put in a value, or I could go and use pre-configured values that I've created earlier. So for example, I've got a field here called mobile width. So I'm saying if the screen width is less than the mobile width, then it's going to add a rule, and what the rule is going to be is to go and hide some sections away. So let's go and hide those two views. Let's hide the header view, and let's also go and hide the information view. So before I run that, I'm just going to remind you what our page looks like. So if I run that, it's got the little info little view at the top here and my header. And obviously if I run this on a mobile device now, it's not going to have those views. But to demonstrate this on this environment, what I'm going to do is just go and change that condition. Instead of it being the mobile width, I'm going to make that 10,000. So hopefully no one's got my screen is more than 10,000 pixels across, just to see that rule execute. So let's now go and run that again. So this time I'm going to run it. The rule is going to execute, and it's removed the header and the video view. What you're also able to do when you build your forms is that the rule designer shows you all the rules that are actually happening on the views as well. So I can see here, when the task list, when the workflow item is clicked, and I can see all these different rules. On my form level, I can actually go to these views, to the rules, go and see what's actually happening, and inside here I can actually go and disable, enable, or even in fact add additional functionality to what that view is doing. So even though I might have a view that's being used on many different forms, and on one particular form I want it to behave slightly differently or override a capability that it's doing by default, I'm able to do that without affecting any of the other forms that are taking advantage of it. So hopefully that's given you a sense of what it's like to reuse the views, be able to lay out your forms in the way that you'd like to do them, and very quickly be able to build additional forms and applications, as well as pick up information about who's accessing these forms and change styling and layouts accordingly as well. If you have any other questions around this, you can contact me directly at igor.k2.com, or you can use the feedback app and contact you and use that to request any further information if you need. Thank you very much for watching this video.